Hi there. All right, thanks for joining me again. So today I'm going to talk about all the different ways that AI sucks right now, and then we're going to move into where's AI going, how is it going to get better, and then also more near term, what are the kinds of software, application services, things like that we're going to be seeing, in my opinion, in the near term. All right, so here are the different things I've written down on the screen in terms of areas where AI could be better. So the first thing is caching. So what I mean by that is right now when you ask the AI a question, it's going to go off and it's going to crunch all of its compute power and it's going to come back with an answer. The thing is, you're probably not the first person to ask for, I don't know, a recipe how to make corn chowder or something like that. Lots of other people have asked that. Or if you're asking a question about doing research or something like that, it's going to rerun that process right now, at least as far as I can tell. No one right now is caching the answers. And it's an interesting topic because, certain things really don't need to be recrunched. Or if someone's saying, what's the top headlines today? And it was just asked 5 seconds ago by 20 other people, probably the same starting answer is useful, or the same answer can be used as the basis for further answers that are going to be given. Um, so if this is not being done yet, I mean, as far as I can tell, it's not being cached, because also when I'm using models for my own purposes with our own knowledge loaded in, we see that things have to be re-warmed up, kind of cached again. So this is something, it's kind of like a short-term memory bank, right? Is still needed. And then learning is a good segue into the next one. So what I mean by this is, like, right now, if you're talking to your AI and you're having a conversation with it and it comes back with an answer and you're unhappy about the answer because you're like, dude, this is clearly wrong. And you tell the AI that it's wrong, which, by the way, is pointless. The AI will just say, like, oh, you're right, says robot. You're right. That should be a different answer. And then it'll spit out its new answer. But it hasn't actually learned anything. If you start a brand new conversation, if someone else does, then it's going to give the same unhappy answer again. What we have right now is we have human beings in this loop that look for signals of this kind of inaccuracy. And they patch in these kind of tweaks, this fine tuning on top of the model in order to force a certain output so that you're not getting, if it's a hallucination, to prevent the hallucination or whatever. But what we're doing right now is we're training the AI system. Oops, let me draw more of a robot here. We're training our AI system a lot pre-release. And there's different ways to train the AI. And then once you've got that all done, we'll package it up. We'll do some protection layers for do no harm and so forth. And then we'll ship it in a nice little box and we'll put it on the website. And then this is what you talk to, this little robot. But when you have a conversation with it and you don't see the right answer, there's no way for you to actually improve the model. So I'm talking about here is an AI that actually learns. And I don't mean, it could be the entire model is learning, but it could also be your specific instance of a model. So imagine you go to ChatGPT and you're having a conversation with it and you tell it something about yourself. Right now, there is a form of, I would say, pseudo-learning, where it's taking the entire body of the conversations that you've been having. So if you have all these different chats you've had, and then you start a new chat, and in this chat, you reference something, it's going to look back through its different conversations, and it's going to use some kind of fun math there to try and guess which little pieces of it need to influence the model. And it's going to then spit out its next output influenced by the previous conversations. But you're essentially, it seems like it's learning, but it's a fake kind of learning, because all it's doing is changing the probability context based on the prior conversations you had. So if in your prior conversation you said you love dogs, and then in your new conversation you say, hey, I'm looking for a new pet, it's going to look back at the conversation, see that the word dog was mentioned, that it's your favorite, and then maybe already know that you like dogs. So it's going to talk about dogs right away without saying, hey, which pets do you like? And that might be fine for, I mean, it's already impressive because we've never had, a lot of these things with AI, like we don't have it yet. So everything we're doing right now is impressive because it's like the first time we're seeing these new things. But this is not really learning. This is just faking it, right? It's like finding out everything that this guy or girl likes, loves, and getting a list and then impressing them because you spied on their list of things they like. And now that you have that list, you can kind of make them think or feel like they're important because you just happen to know these fun facts about them. But it's meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And what I mean by grand scheme of things, I mean in the larger context of what you're looking for AI to really be able and capable of doing. This inability to learn is really important. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more about this learning gap in the coming future. So the next thing is it's not portable. So what I mean by that is I can't just take my AI that, because you can do, you can set up your local RAG or you can train your local AI system. You can create like a system prompt or um, some kind of what do they call it as well? Custom, when a custom GPT, it's called the general guiding information. And you can create that little nice little box of it, but you can't just go to another website, talk to it, and it already knows everything about you, or just say, hey, my AI agent, who I've already trained, I want to use that again on this website. We have right now some concepts right now with this thing called MPC, where you can have your AI talk to other services. That other service could be another AI agent. And it's cool that the standard exists, but right now it's very developer focused. You have to build it into tools. It's not very easily portable. It's certainly not just something where I can just move to any kind of service or online service, or even switch from Google Gemini to Anthropic Claude, and I don't need to like retrain it again. So, because maybe I want to use an image server and I want the image server to know about my business, but now I have to train the image server on what my business looks like. So it's like you constantly have to retrain these models. The next one is every single time you start a new conversation, you're starting from zero. And so what I mean by that is, yes, again, you can have your system prompt and you can have your nice little RAG database, right, with your little vector store. And you can even, so unless you are doing some kind of LoRa or fine tuning, which is more technical than we're going to go into right now today. But unless you're doing that into your AI, and by the way, this is not something you're doing on the fly, every single time you talk to the AI, you're going to be talking from zero, and then maybe you'll have a little bit of that learning thing because you're going to have some context from past conversations that are going to be pulled in. But you have to re-give the AI context all over again. So I know, for example, if I use Cursor, which is an IDEA environment, and I'm working either on code or on a text project there, even though I have all my RAG and all my context and all the files in the system, I still have to reteach my little intern AI which files are important, which files, and it'll forget to look at a certain file that is actually the one it needs to look at so it understands how to approach a certain problem or how we work or what our brand messaging is or something. Because it'll just like assume it knows what our brand messaging is based on not looking at the right documents, and then it just goes off and does the wrong thing. And then you teach it, say, hey, or you teach it by just giving it that feedback within that conversation. You say, you need to look at this file. And then it goes, oh, of course, I'm so sorry. I should have looked at this file. And then it does look at the file, and then it comes back and it does give a better answer. But then you have to do that again. Every single time you start a new conversation, you have to go through that same process of saying, hey, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, let's get you on the track. And so you have to always start from zero. The next thing is what I call error railing. I'm sure there's another term for this. So this is if you have the AI generate a bunch of stuff, and in here it throws in some assumptions about your business. Maybe it just like invents some statistics out of nowhere. And then AI is really good at creating volume. So let's say it creates all this stuff and you're like, well, I just want to make the next thing. I'll read after what it's done. So you go off and you have it, or maybe you just want to generate multiple documents right away. So you generate a new document. This new document, the AI is going to use everything it saw in the document it just made, and it's going to assume that this information is correct and relevant and use it to further basically reinforce the problem or the error over and over again. And it gets deeper and harder. And so the more files you have in your system that have been deviated from the greater the risk that this problem is going to exist, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And so you get this problem that when you start having a lot of data, and I've seen also in projects where if you have a very large conversation involving a lot of files, it's very easy for the AI to kind of get lost into the wrong directions, and then it double downs on a problem, and then it just double downs. And I know, for example, colleague of mine who's running a different agency who's doing a lot of software development as well, and they're doing it with AI, and they got a client who's coming to them, and they've built all this software with AI, and they think it's amazing. But when they're digging into the code, it is a noodle. What they're seeing is just this noodle of AI code that if it's not being driven by someone who really knows how to code, it creates these problems, these errors in the code, and then any new code replicates the problem over and over because it thinks the existing code is correct and accurate. Because there's always this assumption from AI, everything that's been said and written, everything that exists is true and accurate. And if there's conflicts in that, or if there's errors in that, it's just going to compound it. The next is that it is not insightful. So what I mean by that is that, let's see. So I've got the obliging, unaware, fish brain, non-creative. Yeah. I'm going to skip that one because I want to come back to it. So what I mean by obliging is the next one on that list going down is that the AI is always trying to please you. It's always saying you're right. It's always trying to say what it thinks you want to hear and so forth. And that is really a problem because sometimes you need someone to tell you your approach is, have you thought of a different approach? Have you thought of approaching the problem in a different way? You're asking me to do this, but have you questioned first how you're supposed to do it? This is very tricky because as soon as people feel that the AI is talking back to them, telling them, hey, maybe you're not approaching this right, people get really defensive and they really get upset. And so I think we've actually got this problem right now that people don't want this, even though this is what they actually need and want once they realize it. And for someone like me who wants the AI to tell me, like, what the hell, dude, you're going completely the wrong way. Like, I want that. It actually drives me crazy that the AI is constantly obliging and says, perfect, you're right. Amazing. Great idea. You're right. Like, oh my God, just stop being so obliging, right? So this is also a big problem that really annoys me. And even if you tell the AI, please contradict me, or please tell me the opposite or argue against me, it's going to do that because it thinks that's what it's going to, it thinks that's what you want to hear now to please you. So you can't even escape from the problem. It's always trying to please you, even when it's trying to displease you. The next, what I mean by unaware is that when you're talking to the AI, it doesn't know what it's saying. So if you ask the AI, hey, AI, how did you come up with this answer? It's going to do, it's kind of, it's this thing that's like, it's very fascinating because the whole way it generates its answer is it just throws some dice around for each and every single word is just a probability of a certain outcome. Sorry, my die here is really terrible. But it throws out some certain, a dog had a bad, right? And then like, what's the next word? Maybe you thought day, right? Maybe there's like a 90% chance it's the word day, right? But maybe it writes bone, right? Maybe there's like a 5% chance it's the word bone or whatever it might be. All the AI is doing is that. It's just probability of coming up with words one after the other based on a large amount of input, and that input is all the words you're saying to it. That's influencing its statistical output, plus its training, plus it's your past conversations that it's loading in, all that kind of stuff. But in the end, it's just probabilities. So if you're asking the AI, how did you come up with the answer? What's it going to do? It's going to write back to you, and it's going to do a same die roll, and it's going to say, I came up with the word, and then it's going to say day, if day was the word it used, because, and it's just going to still keep rolling dice on words. You're not getting an actual reason. You're just getting more random words generated randomly using the previous sentence as the seed for the new random output. There's no insight in there. And even when you ask an AI to start talking out loud about its reasoning process, you're still not escaping from this randomness. And as it's speaking, the AI has no awareness of what it's saying. So normally a person might speak and then halfway through what they're saying, because the rate of speech is slower than the rate of thought, we can hear what we're saying and then adjust or modify next words that are coming based on, could be input that we're seeing, but it could be our thoughts progressing. And we certainly have an idea of context about the thoughts we're having. Maybe we don't know why we said certain things, but we can reflect upon them as we're speaking them. And so this ability to be more aware of what is, at least in terms of what is being said, would be huge, because there isn't really, so it goes back to memory, but it's a different kind of memory. So you've got like short-term memory, you've got long-term memory, but then you have, I don't know what the correct term for it is, but you've got the memory of the context of what you're saying in that moment, and some ability to reflect upon what you're saying in that moment, and to maybe even make a correction on what you're saying right in the middle of saying it. So anyway, so there's that. And then the that was unaware. And so the fish brain, that is, yeah, it's just, I think I already covered that because it's constantly forgetting. That's kind of similar to the from zero. And then the non-creative part, so because you're always getting the highest probability, you can affect things, but in general, you're getting what is the highest probability of coming up as the next words. So you're getting the most probable answer in all of your conversations with the AI. Creativity, I've heard creativity defined in different ways, but one way to think of it is taking two ideas. So you've got idea one and idea two, and you're pairing two ideas together, could be more than two, but let's say two for now, in a way that hasn't been done before. That could be, a theme with a subject. So it could be take, I don't know, two themes of movies, or and then change the time in which it occurs, or change the country it happens in, or take a genre of movie and then apply it to something else that hasn't had that genre done for it yet. So, and it could be at a high level, could be at sub levels, but essentially you're just pairing things together that are novel recombinations of existing ideas. So you're taking things that already are out there and you're recombining them. If you have a system that is always trying to give you the highest probability of occurrence, it is inherently non-creative because it's always giving you the most likely things. And when you ask the AI to give you an imagination, project, like come up with two very novel ideas, it's it's not inherently easy for the AI to do it because it's going to come up with its most likely two things that it thinks are the most likely to be paired together in a creative way, which is kind of the opposite of how creative thinking works, right? You're trying to quickly go through things that are non-traditional, or you're taking one idea and then applying it to a multitude of possible pairs and trying to then and then you're eliminating pairs that are pairs that already exist in the creative process. I've done some like creative thinking around like concept design and stuff like that. So that's kind of what you're doing there. I'm going to skip the insightful one. I'm going to look in my notes while we keep going. If there's time and come back to it, I apologize, but I tried to write single words for all of these, and in that case, it did not trigger my brain to remember what that one is about. But moving on. So in terms of where we're going, so these are the kind of general things that I think are kind of the pathway. So first of all, we're doing biomimicry with our AI systems. Everything about AI is biomimicry. Biomimicry, in essence, is using things that already exist in the natural world, whether, so it could be anything from science or nature or whatever, understanding how it works and then reapplying it to something else. So there's going to be more and more biomimicry. What we're doing for these AI systems is we're studying a lot of neural networks and how cognition and how the brain works, and we're applying that to these artificial intelligence systems, and we're going to keep seeing that. So when we think of a human brain and our mind, and we think about all the different levels of thought, all these different levels of thought are eventually going to be reapplied into these AI systems. So think, different levels of memory, but also reflexive systems, learning systems, emotional systems, all these, you've got like mathematical systems in your brain, language systems. Right now, the AI is just like a random gumball machine that spits out output. It's fascinating that it's working like that. But there's all these other layers of mental capabilities that need to now kind of come into that process. The other thing we're going to be seeing more of, and we're seeing already a little bit of it, is micronization. And so what I mean by that is things are getting cheaper, smaller in size, meaning smaller file size, but also lower amounts of compute power needed, and therefore also energy. And as we see more and more micronization, we're going to see more and more proliferation. They kind of go together. And the other, and this is kind of linked all together, these three, is more kind of systemized networks. So imagine you've got multiple AIs that have to do things with cognition level. So there's like a higher level thinking, but then you've got maybe like a memory manager AI down here, and it's doing its memory store and retrieval. You've got different AI for mathematics, different AI for maybe like personality development, whatever it might be. And all of these different things are connected together in some kind of a hierarchy. And these different AI systems are talking together. This could also be within a manufacturing plant or system. You could have different AIs talking across different systems. Each of them is balancing different needs. And then you've got maybe like higher function AI, which is monitoring the entire process production and then sending out signals or flags when certain conditions are met or things like that. So this kind of system working, and it could also be within a software application as well, right? There's nothing saying software itself can't also be a network of AIs all working together, or it could be your car having multiple AIs in it. So we're going to be seeing more and more of these kind of multiple AIs and systems, and different AIs working at different levels. Like you can have an AI that's doing just a very simple binary operation of like yes or no. That was a very weird why. Yes or no. And it can be taking its data and making its little decision over and over and over. And that's all it does, is just operating on that very simple space. It's a very simple AI, very just kind of like semantic, contextually aware. And that's it. But then this could be part of a much larger network of AIs. And then on the top, you might have a larger language model that's more capable and intelligent over the top of it, perhaps, or it's just all a collection of these smaller ones. The other thing we're going to be seeing is more of that kind of learning and adapting layer. So imagine an AI that actually learns and then can also adapt in new environments. That is going to be huge when we start seeing that. And then as you have that learning and adapting, we're going to see more generalization as well. And by generalization, I mean AI that has more general purpose or general application. So imagine bringing in emotional AI. And we're seeing a little bit of it. There's a little bit of mimicry of emotion in some of these AIs in their conversation. But the first thing that needs to be addressed if we're going to talk about emotions is like, what is the purpose of an emotional experience or expression? What are the benefits of it? There's a reason why our minds have evolved emotions, why mammals evolved emotions. There's social cues, but there's also emotions help drive our own decisions, our own desires, but also our own needs. Like if you're feeling frustrated, it's because something maybe needs to change or improve in your environment. And that frustration helps ensure that your cognitive layer deals with it, right? So it's a way for different layers of your cognition to speak to each other and to communicate needs at a level at which they are not directly affecting the outcome, but they're affecting the priorities and the focus of, in this case, the higher cognition layer. And, of course, there's also the emotional benefits of being able to better connect with the people you're talking to have empathy, to have a greater sense of connection. Totally, in my opinion, totally achievable by AI as well. And so we're going to be seeing also that as part of the generalization of AI intelligence. The other has to do with fitness. And what I mean by fitness is fitness from an evolutionary standpoint. So what we're going to be seeing more of, and I think we have already been seeing this in the models that are made. The idea is you create a lot of models. We have a lot of models out there. And then the ones that are best suited are the ones that proliferate, and the ones that are not are not. And so you've got this survival of the fittest in a way, this Darwin philosophy applied to AI systems. But I think there's going to be a lot of more fitness being seen, fitness calculations in these AI models together with learning. And the thing to keep in mind is there could be two AIs and they might both be great, but for certain situations. And so with the fitness, you can select the ones that are best suited to your environment, to your application. And then if you have systems that are self-learning, you kind of have to attach it then with because if you were learning, you're broadening, and then the fitness is the funneling. So you need to have both if you're going to be having learning. And I already covered emotional intelligence. All right, and so now going to the more near-term things. So these are kind of the four things I think that we're going to be seeing coming up in this near term. The first, this idea of an AI companion. So what I mean by that, because there's so many different kinds of AI companions. So this could be an AI secretary, or it could be a best friend, but it could also be all these things packaged into one. It could be an AI that kind of coexists together with me throughout everything I'm doing. So it knows about, conversations I'm having on my phone, my calendar, the emails I'm communicating, but I can also have conversations with this AI, and this AI companion would have ideally personality, and it would learn a lot about me. And for example, like I might be able to have a conversation with it and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a new podcast to listen to. What could you recommend?" And it could go through different podcasts. It already knows the ones that I'm listening to. It's seen every single episode I've ever listened to because it's just connected to that, and it can come back and say like, "Oh, have you heard of this podcast or tried it out?" And I might say like, "Oh, I haven't heard of that," or maybe I have and I didn't, I wasn't sure I should listen to it. I'm not really into this kind of thing right now. And whatever you say to it, it will just remember and learn. But also an AI companion could be able to go off and do certain activities, like it could talk to other AI companions from other people or their AI twins. So I'll talk about AI twins next. So the difference between an AI twin and AI companion. Companion, the idea is that you have some other person there, AI person, who you want to be separate from yourself, because that's the benefit you're having, is that this is another entity, another experience that you can share with this AI that gives you a benefit because there's an ability to reflect and to have a difference of opinion, a difference of ideas. And that is where the growth, or where the interesting dialogue or experience comes from. The benefits of that have to do with the fact that the companion is not you. With an AI twin, it's similar, except that think of the AI twin as being the reflection of you in the world. So if someone on my team, I own a couple businesses, if someone on my team wants to know what happened in the meetings last week, or they're writing a blog post and they want to know information to put in the blog, they can just talk to my AI twin. My AI twin knows all the meetings I've had. All my transcripts are stored because all my transcripts are being saved. And they can just talk to the AI twin to know things that they need to know in order to operate the business. And then when I actually talk to my team, it's more about how are things going? How are you doing? I can have like more real human conversations with my team and talk about things that are uniquely human in the experience. And we don't have to just talk about status and sharing information, because that's handled by the AI twin. But AI twin could also be something that is, you can also talk to your twin, because your twin is learning everything about you. And in this case, your business, but it could be your personal life. And because the AI twin knows all these things, you can also have a reflection upon your twin in order to help guide or drive decisions you're making as well. I'm doing this already quite a bit. I already have a twin that I've been developing for myself, and it's awesome. My twin's starting to learn my strengths and weaknesses from these ongoing conversations. But this idea of an AI twin is not really pervasive yet in the industry. It's not something that everybody has. So I think we're going to reach a point in the next few years where having an AI twin is just whatever it's called. It'll probably be called AI twin, but who knows with marketing. But whatever this thing is called, this is going to become a big thing as well. And both these things are portable, right? That's the key. You can portable AI twins and companions. And then embedded pervasive AI. What I mean by that is we're going to be seeing more and more AI embedded in everything. So physical devices, software applications, you go to Spotify, there's an AI there. You get into your car like has an action, you can actually have a conversation with your car. Your car also has memory and ability to pull up things. And, right now it's funny, like a lot of, I don't know why this is taking so slow, but all these like home connectivity systems with voice that you can do. I can't say their names because some of them are around me. But if you say, "Hey, da da da," or you're talking to this very rudimentary system right now, that's definitely going to change pretty quickly here. I mean, I don't know why it's not already changed, but that's coming, and across all software devices and things as well. And then what I mean by AI first experiences, so right now you go to a website and it's still traditional. You just click on a menu, you navigate, maybe you have a search. but there's only a few websites out there that exist that, and I've seen them, and we're interested in them too for like creating them. But these kind of systems, the idea is you go to the website and you either have like a voice and or type conversation with the website, and it comes back with answers. So think of it like a chat GPT, but just that's the website. An example of where that would be great is you go to a government website, you're looking for a form, or you go to the DMV, you're looking for a form, and it's like, oh my God, these websites have so much, any site that has a lot of data on it can be really hard to find things. And so those are like the prime candidate for like the first applications of these AI first websites is sites with a ton of data, and traditional UI navigation just falls apart because there's just too much there. And when you search, you just get like, I've searched for forms sometimes, and like you write the form number and that form number appears as just text in random PDFs that have nothing to do with the form number. And you're just spending forever to find the form, or you're finding the wrong year of the same form. It's just crazy. Conversational AI kind of solves that. You talk to your AI, it has a better context of what you're looking for. It understands the totality of the documents. And that system, of course, technically it needs to do a combination of traditional search with AI search because there's pros and cons of both systems. But essentially for the user, for you using the website, you're just having an AI first experience on that website platform or that software app, right? Maybe it's an app on your phone. You're just talking to it, like instead of tapping on things like that. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of those too. So those are kind of like 4 things that I think we're going to be seeing more of in the coming couple of years. All right. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought I would be drawing a lot more on this last screen, but I guess I did not. So you just get a happy face. Again, any feedback is welcome. Do you like this format? Do you like the conversational format? Are my videos too long? Do you want to go deeper into certain things? Still a very new channel. Let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for watching and take care. Bye-bye.